allows voters to drop off those early voting ballots on Election Day, as other states do not allow that. Maricopa County has had a historic 290,000 early ballots dropped off on Election Day itself, the most ever compared to 2020 when they had about 170,000. Plus, the ballots can't just run through the tabulators. They need to be signature verified, then processed by a bipartisan board before they can be counted. Again, we are just probably minutes, seconds away for this press conference getting underway here. Of course, though, if you do have questions about your ballot, you can always track the status of it online at beballotready.vote, or you can also check out Maricopa County Elections website as well for that situation. But at the moment, we are still waiting for them to come through those doors. It should be any minute now. Guys, back to you.
Just to kind of step back for a minute, a lot of this was caused by the big push to bring your ballot, a mail-in ballot, to the poll on Election Day. So the mail-in ballot is in that envelope with your signature on it and the barcode, which links that ballot to you. But when you put that in, they've got to verify that signature. That takes time. This is the reason we've had this delay, right?
Yeah, that is exactly right. And a lot of those mail-in ballots that were dropped off on Election Day itself, legally, they can't start counting those until the polls closed 7 p.m. on Election Day, compared to all the other early ballots that were dropped off ahead of the Election Day, which they could have they counted already and started that process. But yeah, those ones taking a delay, and it does take time having the 290,000 ballots to have to go through, run through the machines you see behind me, and then verify the signatures. I mean, people have to make calls to make sure it is you, and it's a very time-consuming process, especially if you are a first-time voter here in the county. A lot of times election officials say is they don't have a signature on file to compare to in the past, unlike people who have voted before in this county. They have at least some sort of indication. I believe that we have the press conference starting now. We have the election officials coming up right now, so I'm going to get out of the way here for you.
Okay, Steph. I think we're going to see Bill Gates has been one of the common people we've seen, county supervisor, Maricopa County, and Stephen Richard. And I think that may be Fields Mosley. There's Bill Gates, who just walked in. This has been interesting because we're learning a little bit more about the division of responsibility.
Yeah.
Apparently on Election Day, the county supervisors actually take over this process.
That's right. Let's listen.
Thank you for your patience and being here in this room that was not designed to hold this many people, or well, we appreciate all the interest in Maricopa County elections this year. We know there's a lot of important races and things that everyone is watching across the nation, so we appreciate your time, your patience. Today I have Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, that is Chairman Bill Gates, and most of you have met him at one point or another. Also Recorder Stephen Richard with us today to talk a little bit more about numbers and what we've seen, and the number of early ballots also dropped off on Election Day. We hit a record this year, as many of you we've discussed with you over the last couple of days. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chairman Gates to say a few words and talk about some of the items we're seeing out there.
Great. Thanks, Fields. Great to see everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Really thrilled to be joined by our partner, Stephen Richard, from the Recorder's Office, our county recorder. At the Board of Supervisors, which I chair, we have 5 of us on the board. Our responsibility within the elections process is for tabulation and for running Election Day operations. So I want to talk about how many votes have already been counted. We've already had over 1.1 million votes counted and recorded here in Maricopa County in the 2022 general election. We have about 400 to 410,000 more to be counted. Now, in the 8 o'clock hour tonight, we're going to be reporting more numbers. But let me be clear, that's 8 o'clock hour. Don't expect it at 8 o'clock. Sometime between 8 and 9, that's when we will be seeing our latest reporting numbers. It will be more than the 62,000 last night, but not significantly more. So if you're interested in that, pay attention at the 8 o'clock hour. Why is it taking the amount of time it's taking? A lot of people are talking about this. Well, first of all, it's very standard. This is how things work in Arizona and have for decades. And this is due in part because of mail-in voting, and Recorder Richard's going to talk about that more. But I told this group that we anticipated 95 to 99% of the ballots to be counted by Friday. That's tomorrow. But I'm here to tell you the goalposts have changed. All right? And the reason that the goalposts have changed is because wonderful news, the great participation we had on Election Day. And in particular, we had 290,000 mail-in ballots dropped off at our vote centers on Election Day. That broke the previous record by 70%. So we saw great involvement, and as Recorder Richard can talk about more, there's a process under Arizona law that we have to go through, signature verification, and that takes a while. When those ballots came in on Tuesday, that means that his team couldn't even start until Wednesday. So that's part of why we're seeing those goalposts change a little bit. But we've always told folks that we would be working through this 3-day weekend. Veterans Day is tomorrow. That's a holiday here, but we will be working Friday. We will be working Saturday, and we will be working Sunday to move through these ballots so that we can get through the 400,000 to 410,000 that we're still working on. There were 17,000. We have counted all the votes for people who actually showed up on Election Day and put a ballot into the tabulator. We have about 17,000 left from Election Day. These were the ones that were not read by the tabulator and were put into door 3. We're starting on that tabulation now on that 17,000. Again, that is part of the full 400 to 410,000 amount. Again, to those people who are demanding that we work that we move faster with the count, I want to be very clear about the work that's already being done by the permanent staff here at Maricopa County Elections. They are already working 14 to 18 hours a day. They are making a great commitment. They knew what they were getting into, but there's a plan that we've already put in place, and that involves them working that many hours in a day. We can't go any further than that. We are doing what we can and still maintaining accuracy. We've heard a lot of people talking about other states recently and the fact that they, allegedly count the ballots faster. And one, for whatever reason, that people love to talk about is Florida. So I just wanted to, Florida's a beautiful state, love Disney World, love going down there, but I just wanted to address a couple things on that to make sure we understand what's going on. We have different laws in the state of Arizona than in Florida. Florida does not allow for mail-in ballots to be dropped off at voting locations on Election Day. So they don't allow it at all. We do. We had 290,000 dropped off here. Also, Florida early voting closes the Sunday before Election Day. In Arizona, we allow for drop-off through and on Election Day. And also, Florida has a shorter period for voters to cure signatures. And it's also very important for us to realize that no county or state is done with counting right now. Well, people say, how could that be? Well, here's the issue. We have so many close races that everyone is still paying attention to Maricopa County. Those other states, like Florida, those races were blowouts. Nobody's paying attention anymore. Again, I don't say this to criticize any other states, but just for people to understand. This is how we do things in Maricopa County. We follow the law. These are the laws that were put in place by the state legislature. And finally, I do just want to say thank you so much as we approach Veterans Day to all those veterans across Maricopa County and our country for all they have done to protect this precious right that we're all enjoying. And with that, I'll turn it back to Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Recorder Richard is here. He's got some numbers to share as well, especially related to those early ballots that were dropped off on Election Day. Recorder?
All right, my name is Stephen Richard. I am the Maricopa County Recorder. I am a board of one, but I work with all 5 members of the Board of Supervisors, and together we partner in elections, as Bill mentioned. I am responsible for voter registration and early voting, and then hand things over. Yesterday, which feels like an eternity ago, I gave you some numbers, and so I want to update you on those numbers. I mentioned that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we had received approximately 86,000 early ballots. So we scanned those in to make sure they all came from valid voters. We made sure that the voter hadn't voted more than once, and then we signature verified all of those, and they went through the audit queue as well in signature verification. Then it goes to a bipartisan team that takes it out of that envelope, make sure that the ballot isn't damaged, make sure that the voter hasn't written in red ink, for instance, and make sure that the voter hasn't, for instance, spilled coffee on the ballot, anything that would disrupt the tabulation process. All of those ballots have now been transferred to the Board of Supervisors, and I believe some of them came out in last night's tabulation results. I mentioned that on Monday we received back 52,000 early ballots. All of those have similarly been processed and signature verified and delivered to the Board of Supervisors. Then, as Bill mentioned, we received 292,000 early ballots that were dropped off on Election Day. So we can't begin this process any earlier because those ballots are dropped off at the voting location. They're sealed in their envelopes. We pick them up at the end of the night after all voters have left all the polls. We spent the night organizing them and then getting them ready for that scanning process. We began signature verification yesterday at 7 a.m. and we have already gotten through 250,000 of those signature verifications, which leaves approximately 42,000 signatures to be verified. My team is also responsible for checking the back end on any provisional ballots cast on Election Day. Those are for people who might not have been able to vote or had a discrepancy in their voter profile such that they had to cast a ballot that had to be checked. There were 8,000 of those, which is historically low, but we have gone through all of those and we have determined the status. Additionally, there are 15,000 ballots that are currently in curing status. This is for ballot packets that we have originally marked to be a non-matching signature or no signature. We are in the process of attempting to cure as many of those as possible. We have up until 5 business days after Tuesday Election Day to contact the voter through any means possible, through mail, through phone call, through text, through email, to determine if it was indeed the voter who sent in that ballot. Lastly, Bill mentioned the unique nature of states, or the different nature of states that are heavy mail states. So I pulled some additional statistics. Many of our western neighbors are all mail states. Arizona is not an all mail state. You have to request a ballot or you have to be on the active early voting list. That being said, the vast majority of our ballots do come back through that early ballot process for which I'm responsible. In 2020, that number was approximately 91%. In the August 2022 primary, that number was approximately 85%. Looking at some of our all-male western neighbors, Utah is currently at 61% tabulation, Nevada is currently at 83%, Oregon at 73%, Washington at 66%, and California at 46%. So Arizona and Maricopa County are very much consistent with that. We will not compromise the signature verification process and the ballot processing process because that is instrumental to ensuring the integrity of the ballots before they are sent to the board for tabulation. Thanks.
Thank you, Recorder Richer. We'll now get to some questions. I'm going to start on this side of the room today because I believe I started on the left yesterday. Do we have any questions over here?
County Recorder Richer there. Also, we heard from Election Supervisor Bill Gates as well on how they're continuing this process, and they're trying to get out in front of it. You know, when something happens like this in an election, it's taking a little long. People want to blame. They want to find the blame. And
the blame is a lot of early, late votes.
He posted on Twitter, Stephen Richer, 100,000.
Allow you to drop off that early ballot until 7 p.m. on Election Day. So whether or not that should be changed will be left to the determination of the state legislature. Sometimes it is awkward to be caught between two competing interests. One competing interest in this public policy discussion is the interest in making it as easy to vote as possible, such that you can drop off your early ballot without having to wait in line as late as you want, as late as up until 7 p.m. The other competing interest is, of course, everyone wants results faster, and we share that wish, but we still have to go through those processes that I described earlier. Now, Arizona does cut off at 7 p.m. on election night. We are a receipt state. Some states are postmarked states, such as, I believe, state of Utah. You have to postmark it by the Monday before Tuesday Election Day. But those have long been the rules in Arizona. And the only difference is the growing popularity of dropping your ballot off on Election Day. I don't know what that says about us Arizonans, but maybe it's just convenience. But in 2014, for the November general election, that number was 112,000 dropped off on Election Day. 2016, 170. 2018, 168, and 2020, 172, which, as Bill mentioned, represents that 70% increase.
I guess, though, in your official capacity, would you recommend that change to the state legislature here?
When we are in the process that we currently are, it sure would be nice to have had those quite a few days earlier, because that original note, and I noted this every single day of the month of October, that if you get your ballot back to us, before the weekend, it would be part of the 8 p.m. results. In a perfect world, in my perfect world, everyone would vote through the early ballot processing, because that's what I oversee, and they would all have their ballot to us by Friday, before Tuesday Election Day, such that we could immediately release 100% of the results.
I have a question for Mr. Gates.
Okay, so Cameron, did you have something?
Yes.
All right, so let's go to Cameron, and I'll go to Bianca, okay?
So Cameron Arkin with Red State. My question is for Chairman Gates. You sent a statement yesterday that roughly 70 voting centers had issues on Election Day. What cities were these most common in, and do you plan on releasing a list of these locations at some point?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I can tell you that those locations were dispersed throughout the county. There wasn't a particular city or portion of the county that they were that they happened to be in. And as part, we made a statement as well where we said that we were going to do a deep dive as the Board of Supervisors, to find out exactly what caused this and to make sure that it never happens again. And I can imagine that may be something that we would release, as well as getting to that level of granularity on all 70 of those.
Hang on a second. Bianca?
Yeah, thanks. Mr. Gates, so certainly appreciate your time. We know you said your workers are working 14 to 18 hours, but could you, if you will, sir, just address some of the criticism about the toner issue and that there wasn't enough done to prevent this? Some critics are saying that there should have been more preparedness, a better contingency plan, that some toner cartridges were dropped off and letters were sent and just things were not appropriate. Can you just, assure folks that what you did and that do you firmly believe that you could have avoided all the issues we saw at those polling places on Election Day?
Can you repeat the question?
It was a pretty long question. All right. So she's asking if we could have done more on Election Day to prevent the issues with the printers. She mentioned toner cartridges. I haven't heard anything about toner cartridges or any defects with toner cartridges. We've talked about how much rigorous testing was done, the fact that we use the same paper, we use the same printers, we also, in the primary as well, and we also used the vote center tabulators.
That was 2020, so I just wanted to get his thoughts.
Okay.
Now a few days out.
So did I describe the question well enough? Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, no, we certainly appreciate the concerns. I've talked about that quite a bit over the past few days. But look, I want to be very clear. No election is ever perfect. And that's why we have backup plans. And the backup plan that we used in that instance was the door number 3. So that if the tabulator was not working, that people could place their ballot into door 3 to have it tabulated, not there at the vote center, but here in Central Count. And by the way, the majority of Arizonans who vote on Election Day, that's exactly how it's done for them. They do the ballots there, and the tabulation occurs at Central Count. Again, we understand that there were problems that made an impact, that created inconvenience, and we're going to do better next time.
All right, I'm going to go to Barbara Villa over here.
And this question is for Stephen, if you could get to the mic.
Go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, well, the question is, in terms of the manpower to cure these ballots, how is the workforce doing? Do you need more? How is it going? How is the work situation going?
So Barbara's asking how the workforce is doing, considering the number of hours they're working and long days, and of course working through the holiday weekend, and kind of in general what we're experiencing right now. Okay. Recorder Richard.
So the question specifically related to curing, which again, I'm in this every single day. I appreciate that you all are not. But that is when we originally mark a signature as a non-matching signature. It then goes to a manager queue. The manager has access not just to 3 signatures, but the whole voter's whole file. Every time that voter has voted early and returned a ballot affidavit envelope, the voter registration cards, any modifications to the voter registration status. If the manager also marks it as a non-matching signature, then it is then sent to curing. That process ended at 7 p.m. for any ballot affidavit envelope that did not have a signature. That's the deadline according to state law. As mentioned previously, for non-matching signatures, we have 5 business days in which to do that. We have committed over 30 temp workers to calling day and night to attempt to contact the workers. We had great success with this in the August primary. Of the 13,000 plus signatures that were deemed non-matching in the August primary, we were able to cure the vast majority of those. We also have a text secure program. We have email, we have mail if you sent it in early enough. What we do is we ask for personal identifying information such as your mother's middle name or the last 4 of your social security, such that we can confirm that it is who is the intended voter, but the signature didn't match for whatever reason.
All right, please.
Arit John with the LA Times. Carrie Lake's campaign has accused the county of, quote, slow rolling the results or, quote, selectively releasing Democratic head-lead batches. Could you guys respond to that and sort of just walk us through, like, which ballots come out when and how you guys work through that?
Chairman Gates.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And, you know, I really appreciate the opportunity to answer this question because I do not want the people of Maricopa County to think that we're picking and choosing which ballots to tabulate. We do we use an accounting concept, first in, first out, and that's how we do the things. So when things come in first, when they come in on Friday, those are the ones that get processed by Recorder Richer and get tabulated, and then the Saturdays come in and we do those, and then the Sundays come in and we do those. We're not picking and choosing which ballots are being used, which ballots are being tabulated. So and as far as the statement that we're slow rolling, again, I think maybe Carrie Lake is saying that because she hasn't followed elections as much as, frankly, I have the last 20 years. Because before I was on the Board of Supervisors and the Phoenix City Council, I was actually a Republican lawyer who was here in this building watching what was going on behalf of the Republican Party. And I can remember 16 years ago being here for a close congressional race that some of you might remember, J.D. Hayworth versus Harry Mitchell, and I was here for days because that's how it works here in Arizona, because of some of the things that Recorder Richer has talked about and that I have with mail-in ballots. So we are absolutely not slow rolling it. And also, if their team would have been paying attention before this election, they would have heard us talk about this over and over again, that we were not going to have results on election night. Or even the next day, that it was going to take several days. And quite frankly, it is offensive for Carrie Lake to say that these people behind me are slow rolling this when they're working 14 to 18 hours. So I really hope this is the end of that now. We can be patient and respect the results when they come out.
Just quick follow-up on that, too. Carrie Lake actually went a little further than that. She said that you guys, my name, Bill, and Steven, she called you despicable on Charlie Kirk's show today. Just wondering if you're concerned about the increasingly heated rhetoric as this goes on for the next few days, and concerned about safety, just concerned about what the potential impact might be in the coming days.
You know what I'm concerned about? I'm concerned about getting this count done. And that's what everyone in this building is concerned about. Everybody needs to calm down a little bit. Turn the rhetoric down. That's the problem with what's going on in our country right now. Why does everything have to be that? You know, she can call us whatever name she wants to. We were elected, Recorder Richer was elected by all of Maricopa County. I was only elected by District 3, only about 1 million of us. That's what we were elected to come here and do this job and get through and follow Arizona law and make sure this is done accurately. And by the way, for me, My colleagues and I on the Board of Supervisors, we're actually in 51 lines of business. But I've been spending a lot of time down here at McTech, and it's great to be around these people every day. And so, you know, let's show a little respect to them. Let's stop the name calling, and let's get through all this.
If I could, these folks have shown no willingness over the years to not name call. Mr. Fincham and Ms. Lake, could you confirm, number one, that those individuals did not take you up on the offer to come in here? And number two, I think it's part of our role, I think most of us have said that there is no reason to suggest that this is not a secure process. The folks here are doing the right thing. They're going through the signature verification process. My ask of you guys and my question to you is, we are doing our best to convey to the public here the rollout of these ballots here, and our understanding yesterday was that we were going to get most of Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and that did not quite happen yesterday. We only got 62,000, which from my standpoint is okay, but the folks are looking, and there's one candidate in particular who is eager to announce. If you guys could provide us a little bit more of an understanding of what to expect, even with tonight's ballot drop. A lot of folks are waiting for those Tuesday ballots to come out, which we believe will give an indication of where this is going. Could you guys offer what we should expect tonight among that, a little bit more than 62,000, and what we should expect in the days ahead? That would be helpful, I think, to everyone.
So you want confirmation about who was offered a tour and whether they took them up on the offer?
Yeah.
This is something we addressed in the press conference last week. Also, what a little more specificity, is that what you're asking
Yes.
for, as far as expectations on the number of ballots?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a fair question, to have a little more visibility. Again, we're working really hard to be transparent through this process. Again, like I said, the goalposts have changed a little bit because of what happened, all those late earlies being dropped off on Election Day. And we did really try and encourage people to get those in early. And actually, I would also say the party leadership did that too on both sides. But again, we did 62,000 last night. We'll do more than that tonight, not significantly more. I don't want to tie the team to an exact number. And then you're going to see that now, an evening drop in a similar type of number for several days. Tomorrow's a holiday, but everybody's working. Saturday is the weekend. Everybody's working. Sunday, everyone's working. So I would say anticipate this type of rhythm. I don't want people to think there's going to be 200,000 reported on some day. It's not going to happen on any day. But something like this, 62, more tonight, and hopefully in that kind of rhythm, getting us through to the end. People need to understand that. And again, we wish it could be quicker, but again, we're dealing with Arizona law and we're dealing with counting all of this accurately.
Do we have an idea how many of those Tuesday ballots we're going to see?
Oh yeah, so tonight you will not see any of the Tuesday ballots. We're still getting through the weekend.
And is the reason for the change, is it the adjudication process? Can you walk us through kind of why we're only seeing 62?
Yeah. So, well, I don't think there. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that I indicated a specific number. What I did say, admittedly, was 95 to 99% by Friday. We're not going to hit that, but it's a variety of issues. All some on Recorder Richard's side, some on our side. Some of the adjudication back here can slow things down. But again, the biggest single factor would be the large number of late earlies that came in on Election Day, 70% more than the previous record.
Do you have an estimate about where you will be on Friday?
I'm not that good at math to try and calculate that. Again, let's say somewhere around this, 62, some more than that. You see that going, every day. You guys can do the math as we chip down from that 400,000 to 410,000 number.
Bill, hang on a second. So you want to answer the question about the tours?
Yeah, let's take the two.
Sorry, we're going to answer the question about the tours.
Regarding the tour question, it's one of the things that I'm proud of that we've accomplished over the last 2 years is we have had a lot of individuals, business groups, social groups, political groups that have come through. Republican Party precinct committeemen, Democratic Party precinct committeemen. We made that offer to all candidates as well, several of whom took us up on that, and we were pleased to host them. We made that offer to everyone in the state legislature as well, quite a few of whom took us up on that offer, and so we give them Elections 101 in Maricopa County, and we walk them through this whole facility and hopefully demystify the process. But no, neither of those two joined us since I've been in this office.
Let me go back to the 17,000 Ward 3 for a minute. I realize you're still trying to figure out exactly what happened, whether it was toner or printer drum or something that caused these not to be printed in the way that the scanners would read it. I guess my question is, why before the polls were open did somebody not run a couple of these test things through to see what the problem is? Some of what I've seen in terms of some of these ballots is there clearly were gaps. My laser printer printed out like that, I'd say, well, wait a second. Why wasn't this checked out before the polls opened?
So what you're saying? You've seen examples where there were clearly gaps on those timing marks?
What I've seen, yes, it has been.
But there are gaps in them. It's almost like a wide barcode all the way around the outside.
I guess my question is, if the printers, for whatever reason, toner, drum, phases of the moon wasn't printing out right, why weren't some of these things run through some of the printed and run through some of the scanners before the doors opened on Tuesday?
I can take this.
All right, thank you.
My name's Megan Gilbertson. I'm the Communications Director with the Maricopa County Elections Department. That's a really great question, Howie. We do stress tests and logic and accuracy tests on all of our equipment. And when we do that logic and accuracy test, we print the ballots from the Ballot on Demand printers, as well as our central counting, or the Runback Election Services, which prints all of the ballots, the early ballots that we send out. Those tests do check all of those printers. We also do stress tests before and after each election on that equipment, running hundreds of ballots through some of those pieces of equipment, making sure that they're accurate. The one thing that's really important to point out is that through since we've had these printers, we've used the same exact settings. And so that was a unique thing that happened in this election, which is why our techs took a little bit more time to find a solution. So they were able to find the solution, and it was not toner, it was a fuser. And they had to change the heat setting, or the settings on the printer to heavy. For all three of the types of printers that get sent out. And so when they found that solution, we were able to get that out. But for us, it was a temporary solution because it wasn't the root cause. Because we've done those tests, we've done the checks on the system, and so it didn't provide us that root cause analysis, which is what the board is going to do alongside the elections department after this election, and after we can really focus on getting these results out to the public. But that is generally what happened on Election Day. Yes.
What is that?
It's basically, I mean, this is very technical, and I'm happy to go into detail with you and with our IT folks, and we can send out some more information about this if you all are interested in it. So it's basically, it's one of the settings on there that makes sure that we can have the right thickness in paper. So it's the media weight setting is what it was. Thank you.
Hang on a sec. Let's go to Nicole, then I'll come back to you, okay?
Probably for Supervisor Gates, but since we're talking about the Dropbox 3, have any of the door 3 ballots with the printing issues had to, I know that they're counting, but have any had issues being counted, and have any of them had to be duplicated or done by hand?
So I'm happy you asked that, because I was going to mention that. And I can't say that there haven't been any that have had an issue, but I know that what I'm hearing is they're running through well. The results so far have been very positive on those. Obviously, we'll have more information as we move forward. I do not anticipate that those are going to be part of the count that we released tonight, but it's moving along well. Those are the early reports on those 17,000 out of the box 3.
So if for some reason one does not read through, they would have
Yeah.
to be done
Yeah.
by hand?
Yeah, we have these adjudication boards, and they will take a look at that. What's that? Duplication. Sorry, duplication boards will take a look at that. We'll produce a new ballot. So we'll obviously have more information. That has started not too long ago, but we're encouraged by what we're seeing so far.
Do you expect those to be tomorrow night included, the 17,000 ballots?
Yeah, we're going to get through them all first. I don't want to commit to that at this point, but again, I do want you to know that we've started that, and it's been very positive
Can I
so
just
far.
follow up, Bill? Just
Yeah.
if you could clarify, what type of ballots
anticipate to be part of the count tonight?
Yes.
And then when
Yes.
you go into the types of ballots?
Yes. So we anticipate that this evening they will be mail-in ballots that were received Sunday and Monday. Saturday night, Sunday, and Monday, but not any Tuesdays for this evening's numbers.
When will that begin?
I would assume we would start seeing those tomorrow. Is that fair? Yes.
Let's go to the back of the New York Times.
Maybe this is for Bill or Stephen, but there's a disconnect in the sort of general ether about the count here, where the allegations from the Lake Camp and others is the slowness of the counting, in their words, is due to some malfeasance or incompetency. And the message you are all saying is that the slowness is to ensure accuracy and election integrity. Can you discuss that disconnect and, in broader terms, what this process is in terms of the integrity of the ballot and why it takes so long versus, just the you want to get the results out as fast as possible?
I think Recorder Richard went into quite a bit of detail on that, but
Happy to go further.
okay.
Yeah. So I would suggest that you want us to go through every single one of those processes. When we scan it in, you want to make sure that does come from a registered voter who hasn't previously voted. And then when we go through that signature process, in fact, some of the fallout from 2020, which was an administration that I was actually not in this office for, was that the signature review process happened too quickly. If anything, we have upped the intensity of the process. We have allocated more historic signatures to each level of reviewer. We have increased our training, and we have told that each reviewer that accuracy is paramount, not speed. And so we're adhering to that program. And then each one goes into an audit queue. If it is marked good signature, the manager goes through that audit queue to make sure that the process is being done with integrity at all steps. Then it's sent to that bipartisan ballot processing team. Again, we don't want just people taking out those ballots out of the envelopes as quickly as possible and throwing them in a stack and getting them ready for tabulation. The first thing that they do is to make sure that it's the right ballot style that matches the serial code on the envelope, to make sure that it is in fact for this election, to make sure that it was the ballot that was intended for that voter. Then again, to make sure that we cast as many votes as were intended, we make sure that that ballot isn't damaged, or make sure that somebody didn't write in red ink, such that that would have to be sent to a duplication board. And board in election lingo just means a bipartisan group of two. I wasn't sure if Nicole knew that. So, and then one thing that I failed to mention is that I've been previously asked about the curing process. That deadline, which I said was 5 business days, ends 5 p.m. on Wednesday evening. So please, if you're proactive, go to beballotready.vote. You can track all your early ballots, beballotready.vote. You can log into your individual dashboard and you can see if we have signature verified and if it has been tabulated. If we have not, then you can reach out to the elections department directly and you can make sure that we cure it.
So just to follow up, has any changes made since 2020, and given the concerns statewide and nationwide, are some of the changes adding to a little bit longer time with each ballot?
Incrementally, I suppose, because we added an additional level of audit on the signature review process. But I can't speak to all of the practices of 2020, but it has always been that accuracy is the most important component of the signature verification process.
Did you still have a question?
Oh, okay, thank you. My colleague got most of them.
All right, very good. Let's go to Mary Jo.
In past years, when there were not races that are as close as some of these are, when did the counting stop?
When did the county stop counting?
In other words, how long does it take to process votes? And does the fact that you have close races, does that really affect the length of time to count ballots?
Yeah, no, the fact that they're close races doesn't make it last any longer. It's that we don't have all these people in here when it's all blowouts, right? It's because you guys are paying attention. And how we've gone here, this is very similar. Again, I'm giving you my anecdote from 16 years ago. I was here for days. There was a guy here, we had some temporary workers, I'd see them around, And there was a Clay Aiken lookalike from American Idol. If you remember Clay Aiken, the guy was a spitting image. And I saw him for days. I was here, that was 16 years ago. Nothing's changed. If the legislature wants to change it, make it go quicker, make some of those changes like they have in Florida. We have to follow state law. We are right on track. Is there a lot of excitement? Was there a lot of election day excitement dropping off the late earlies, which, by the way, we said time and time again, really try not to drop off your late early on election day. It's going to slow the process down. But people did it, and that's fine because that's their right. But then it's our obligation, and it is their privilege as a voter to have us do this right. They deserve that. That's what this is about. This election is actually about the voters of Maricopa County. It's not about the candidates, and it's not about us.
To further contextualize that, do you have data from previous years, the primary and this year, the general and the primary in 2020, how many days it took you to conclude counting the votes?
Yes, and we covered that in detail in a previous press conference before most of you came to town. But yes, it's between 10 and 12 days, and it has been for at least the past decade. But you can see that in the canvas as well, which is a public document. It's on, I think many of them are on our website. So, and if it's not, we can certainly provide that to you. But yes, it's generally 10 to 12 days. Please.
I'll offer my own anecdotal experience for what it's worth. In 2020, the November 2020 election, there were 2.1 million ballots cast. I'd like to say that I won in a landslide against my then opponent, Adrian Fontes. I got 4,500 more votes than he did. So, but that took until a Wednesday, a week and a day from Election Day Tuesday to find out that I was going to win that race. So based off of my one personal experience, this is entirely consistent with such a close race.
Do you guys have a firm sense of when the counting will be completed overall, and specifically the 290,000 in-person election day drop-offs? Like, when will that be done? Do you know?
The 290,000. I think we've covered that in quite a bit of detail today. We're not going to, anywhere from 60 to 80 perhaps will be released every day. You guys can do the math. When we have 400 to 410,000, we'll be mostly done by early next week. And then, of course, Mr. Richard talked about the curing process. By state law, people have until Wednesday to cure any signature that's still questionable out there. So that's a small, tiny percentage of the total number of voters that will vote in this election. But yeah, that's when we'll get closer. Now, will we get close enough in the next 3 or 4 days for media organizations to start calling races? Perhaps, and that's of course your prerogative. But we don't call races. We count all the ballots and count all the votes on those ballots. Howie, another question.
Quick follow-up, which has to do with all those people who came in on election day with their little green envelope. It was members of your party and Mr. Richard's party who went and told people, don't turn it into the last day because of the fact it'll give them less time to cheat and find all those fake ballots and to stuff the ballot boxes. I basically need some response from the two of you as good Republicans to the fact that it was the GOP that may have caused this problem in the first place.
No, I mean, I don't know if that's universally so. I know that Mickey Nyland, the chairwoman of the Maricopa County Republican Committee, was encouraging people to either vote in person, feeding it directly into the machine on election day, or to get back your early ballot in a timely manner. Certainly there has been a lot of negativity towards mail-in ballots over the past 2 years. And as we saw perhaps in 2020, that might have heightened people's interest in delivering it on election day. It also maybe changed voting patterns from what they were historically in Maricopa County from 1992 to 2018. But if I were under the impression that everyone in the world was listening to me, I think that this would have falsified that because, like I said, for the entire month of October, it would still be lawful. I just wanted people to understand when in the tabulation process their ballot would be part of the results if they returned it at certain different time periods.
Yeah, and then the only thing I would add, I'm not going to blame the parties for what they may have said about this or not. Actually, what I would point to is the excitement about this election. We had so much excitement here, so much money spent on campaign ads. People have been inundated with information about this election, and then also President Obama visited the week before the election. I think it generated an immense amount of interest, just like in 2016 before the presidential preference election. We had all these candidates coming in late, right before the election, that generated a burst of energy, and we had obviously record lines in too. So I would point more to the general interest and excitement than blaming one party or the other.
Question over here. Who do we got back here? Yvonne?
Questions for you. In 2020, there were several attempts by the former president to communicate with folks here in Arizona, specifically the board. Supervisor Gates, have you heard from Trump, or have there been efforts by him or his team to get in contact with you? That's my first question.
You want to take that one first?
There's been no outreach to me from President Trump or anyone else within his orbit, and I haven't heard about that from any other member of the Board of Supervisors.
And then my second question is, you or the county opposed an effort last legislative session to break the county up into smaller pieces, 3 that favored Republicans, 1 that favored Democrats. That effort clearly is afoot again, and the printer issues have primed perhaps the public to be supportive of something like that. Can you give us a sense of whether or not that would be a viable way to perhaps conduct elections in the future? And 2, are there any other legislative proposals looking, a few weeks away when the session starts that you would advocate for to address some of the issues that you see up close moving ahead?
Yeah, so as far as the effort that was made by some in the State House last year to split Maricopa County up into 4, I'm a fiscal conservative, and I think most Republicans are supposed to be anyway. So I don't know why taking this county, splitting it up into 4, creating 4 boards of supervisors, 4 sheriffs, 4 administrative buildings, all of the things that go along with that, why that would be something that fiscal conservatives would be supportive of. Also, Maricopa County, as the 4th largest county in the country, is an economic powerhouse. We're proud of this. We've been the fastest growing county in the country for the last 4 years. So I don't know why you would want to divide us up. This, what happened on Tuesday has nothing to do with that. Again, it is something that was a glitch that was addressed. And like I said, and like was said in a statement by Vice Chair Clint Hickman and me yesterday, we're going to get to the bottom of it and fix it. As far as any legislative proposals, this approach that we have of doing elections, where people have the opportunity to drop off mail-in ballots on Election Day, it does elongate this calendar. I honestly don't have an opinion one way or the other. I don't. This is how we've done it for years. If people find this frustrating to them, then I guess that's the way we'll go with this. But again, they may not. Here's the scenario, okay? So if you do go on Election Day and there are lines, and you don't want to wait in that line, and you have your early ballot, you get to go to the front of the line and drop it off. So there are advantages of it too. But again, I think what this is all about is setting the rules and following them, and that's what we do. We don't set the rules, but they give us the rules. We follow them. We follow the law, and we get these ballots counted.
We'll take one more question.
Can I just ask a follow about threats? This building is so fortified right now. I know somebody asked this. I'm not sure if it really got answered. You were mentioned by name on Tucker Carlson's show yesterday. I'm just wondering if you have received calls, emails, if people coming in and out of the building are getting harassed. Like, what's the threat environment?
Are you addressing Recorder Richer?
Either.
All right. So the threat environment right now, and a lot of you talked to the sheriff about what you called your word fortification.
Yeah.
Were you here in 2020?
I've seen the photos of all the
Yeah,
producers.
I understand. Do you want to talk about this at all?
I wasn't aware of that TV reference. Hopefully it was kind. No, I mean, it would be imprudent over just given everything that this county has experienced over the last 2 years if we didn't take security very seriously. But security has three parts. Yes, that's for our workers, but it's also for your ballots. And so when there are allegations about if they existed, somebody getting into the center, well, having robust security is also forestalls against any accusation of that. And then, of course, the third component, which was robust on Election Day, thanks to the good efforts of the sheriff and local police departments, was ensuring the safety of each individual polling location and making sure that police department members or sheriff's deputies were on call and ready to get there as soon as possible.
Sorry, but could you answer her question about what the threat level has been? Have you been receiving threats? Have your workers been receiving threats? Is it heightened or is it less than last time? Can you give us some sort of perspective on it?
I can't give perspective on the 2020 election, but it has been consistent. Some of those have been documented. Some of those
threats have been consistent.
Yes, some of those have been prosecuted. It doesn't match the level during the Cyber Ninjas review, but they are still extant.
And yeah, the only thing that I would add to that, absolutely agree with Recorder Richer, and those threats have gone to the Board of Supervisors, and that threat level is continuing, and that is now a part of life for me and my colleagues. And it shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be for all the elections workers and election officials across the country, but that's now a way of life. And more people need to start speaking out and saying that that is absolutely unacceptable. No one should be the subject of death threats, but particularly not those who are simply trying to keep our democracy afloat and count the votes and make sure that every eligible voter's ballot is treated with respect.
Is there something you'd like to say to the people who are making those threats directly?
These people, you know what I would say? I would have them just stop for a second and think about my grandpa. My grandpa was a World War II veteran who was in Europe during World War II. And he helped to defeat the Germans. I want them to think about that, what he was over there fighting for. He was not fighting for their right to pick up a phone or type in a text threatening someone's life. He was fighting for the right of each and every one of us to vote and select our own leaders. So my grandpa would not be cool with that. And to me, that says it all.
So when are we going to see you guys again?
We'll see you tomorrow afternoon. Okay, we'll send out an advisory. We assume it'll probably be in the 4 o'clock hour once again. So thank you very much. Selena Olivas is, if you need some answers to questions in Spanish, she is available. And for those from Univision or Telemundo or any other outlet that prefers Spanish, we can make her available too. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate your time. If you have other questions, please email us. We'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you.